To me, the key challenge of our time is the ability to not let the craziness of the world around us make us crazy, to be able to focus on what we need to focus on and tune out the rest. And I don't mean to say you become disengaged, you don't contribute, you just focus on your own stuff. That's the opposite, right? The key Stoic virtue, to me, the most important of all the virtues is justice. And it's clear that justice is the most important virtue because of what happens when you remove it from the other virtues. Courage in pursuit of an unjust cause, discipline to the pursuit of selfishness, this isn't admirable. I'm sure Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the nephew of John F. Kennedy, thinks he's speaking truth to power, being courageous or whatever. The problem is, like, a worm ate his brain and he spews nonsense. You can take a courageous stand, but if the cause is bad, it's not so great. That's what Lord Byron said. "'Tis the cause makes all that hallows or degrades courage in its fall." Yeah, you're marching to the beat of your own drummer, risking people judging you when you stand up and say the world is flat, but that's not the courage we're talking about, right? It has to be directed at things that have a social good, a social component. That's what Stoicism is. More than 80 times in Meditations, Marcus Aurelius talks about the common good, our obligation to each other. Stoics talk a lot about what's our concern and what's not our concern. They didn't just mean like some things are in our control and some things are not in our control. He's saying, Hierocles, one of the great Middle Stoics, talks about how we all exist as a series of concentric circles. Yeah, we're at the center, but there's people we love, people that live near us, our fellow citizens, allied nations. There's animals, there's people that live far away from us, there's people we've never met, there's people who've never even been born. He says the work of philosophy is to expand our circles or to pull the outer circles inward, to care about the common good, to care about, genuinely love and do good for people far away from us, people not like us, people that we know nothing about because they are fellow human beings. So John F. Kennedy's father, Joseph Kennedy, was the ambassador to the UK from 38 to 40. And he was basically a Nazi appeaser. He sort of falls in love with the idea of Hitler. He thinks that it's a war the world can't possibly win, that Hitler's unstoppable. And so he is constantly sending back these sort of messages of not getting involved, downplaying what's happening. And, you know, this is a moral stain on him and the family. So I think it's both ironic and perfectly understandable that JFK would be responsible for a couple of famous misquotations. He says, he believes he's quoting Edmund Burke, that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. He says, or he thinks he says, that Dante said that the harshest circle of hell is reserved for those who stay neutral in moments of moral crisis. Neither of them said anything really on close to that wording, but it's kind of Freudian that he would think that, given his father's terrible decision. Sometimes I get pushback from people when I talk about anything political with Daily Stoic. They go, why pick a side? You're gonna piss off half your audience. It's very American that they assume 100% of the audience is American and that 50% of the audience is Republican, which it's definitely not, thank you. But the reason you pick a side is because you have to pick a side. That's what justice is about. Seneca said that the key distinction between the Stoics and the Epicureans is that the Epicureans only got involved in politics and public life if they had to. And he says a Stoic gets involved unless something prevents you. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius reminds himself, he lists all the injustices we all commit and things we do that are wrong that we shouldn't do. And he says, but it's important to remember that you can commit an injustice by doing nothing also. And given the state of the world, given the state of the country that I reside in, given the trends that are on the march all over the world, the idea that you get to be neutral, that you don't have to pick a side, that you just focus on what your own little life, this is what he's talking about when he talks about injustice. Sure, the election probably won't change my life one way or another. I have options. I have money. I live in the middle of nowhere. But it's going to affect other people's lives. And you have to care about that as if it affects your own life. That's what the Stoics are saying. That's what pulling these outer rings inwards is about. People are openly talking in America about a plan to deport north of 10 million human beings. The logistical horror of that, what that would actually mean and be and cost and inflict on people is almost incomprehensible, which is the point. They're not even thinking about it at all because they don't know these people. These people aren't really even people to them. That's what demagogues do. They dehumanize so they can allow things to happen. Voltaire said, "He who can get you to believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities." So first, this is the playbook of Trump and Vance to first say that there's 20 million illegal immigrants in America, which there objectively is not. So then when they say we're going to deport 10 million of them, a moral abomination, a project that I would assume involve loading people onto trains, putting them in camps. There's only a couple ways to do something like this. But the point is to get you to imagine, wrap your head around an absurdity, then allows you to turn off your moral compass towards an atrocity. So this idea that Stoicism is about not caring is in fact the opposite of what it's about. You have to care. You have to care about other people. You have to care about people who are not like you. Because if you don't, who does that make you? It's not just that it degrades you. The Stoics would say that allowing cruelty and evil to exist in the world, it most of all degrades you. So look, there are huge, enormous injustices and problems in the world. And each of us as individuals only have so much say over them, can stop them in some way. But what a Stoic does, what a Stoic would focus on is where we do have impact. Voting, of course, is part of this. But mostly, they would say, how can you do good for someone, right? What is the smallest thing you can do? How can you be a small light in a dark room, as they say?